I think Paulina knew that there was so much tension surrounding the match in the media that the sending off would have been a very unhappy event. But anyway, we didn't get to see any of the Beckham-Alpay fight, unfortunately, and so the match was dull, the only unpleasant part of the day. In short, my experience of visiting Turkey, very nice as long as you don't do any of the crazy things that these fans did. So that's my thoughts on British views of Turks, Turkish views of Britain, and what it all has to do with football. Now I want to come on to one of the great political questions of our age, which I very humbly am going to talk about, which is Turkey a European country? And once again, I want to see what football tells us about this question, what football helps to illuminate. Let's start with a quote by Giscard d'Estaing, the former French president, who wrote most of the European Union's failed constitution. Giscard said Turkey was not a European country and it shouldn't be allowed into the European Union. He referred to Turkey's Muslim population, its relatively high birth rate, and he said that Turkey had, I quote, a different way of life. Some other European leaders, such as the French President Nicolas Sarkozy, have said similar things. So, is he right? Can Turkey never be like the rest of Europe? What does Turkish football tell us? Because football is a pressure point. It's the spot where Turkish culture, whatever Turkish culture may be, because of course Turkish culture changes all the time, and where Europe meets. Football is where you can see this country's possible future, because it's maybe the only area of Turkish life it has already become European. Turkish politics may not be European, but Turkish football is very much European, as you at Fenerbahçe know. The story of how Turkey began to play football the European way is one that you probably know. I first heard it in full, told wonderfully by Deniz Gökçe, again I've pronounced that wrongly, Gökçe, the economics professor and football commentator, who told it to me in the bar of the Hilton Hotel just around the corner, overlooking the Beşiktaş Stadium. We sat in the bar, and because I'm staying in the Hilton now again, thanks to the organisers, thank you very, very much, I was just remembering the time he told me this story. So the Turkish story starts on June the 20th, 1984, in the 90th minute of the West Germany-Spain match at the European Championships in Paris. And it starts when the big Spanish defender, Antonio Maceda, a big blonde guy, heads the only goal of the game. Spain beat Germany 1-0, and Germany are out of the European Championships. Terrible shot. Germany always win. They're reigning European champions. How could they lose? So, of course, they sack their manager, Luc Derval, and Derval, whose reputation in Germany is now zero, moves to a developing football country. He comes to Turkey and joins Galatasaray. Now, in 1984, I think it's fair to say that the average Turkish footballer was something of a selfish midget dribbler who didn't pass. And of course, this is the era that Turkey, with Fatih Uraz in goal, lost 8-0 to England. Anyway, Derval, who died this June, came to Galatasaray and he began shipping in German-born Turks. And these German-born Turks were bigger than Turkish Turks because they had a better diet. And they trained like Germans, so physically they were more advanced than Turkish players. Unfortunately, soon after arriving in Turkey, they became exposed to the life of a sultan, which is, I gather, how certain Turkish footballers live, with large harems, many visits to nightclubs, and their games began to deteriorate. But still, bringing in Turkish Germans was a start when you're becoming a European football country. Derval also promoted what was a novel idea in Turkey of having Turkish players train on grass, obviously helpful because you play on grass. And he and other German coaches, and my fellow Englishman Gordon Milne at Beşiktaş, got Turkish players actually doing some work. Turkish television around this time began showing foreign football matches, and I think that taught some Turkish viewers, perhaps for the first time, what the pass is. Turkey qualified for Euro 96, and okay, they didn't score a goal and they didn't register a single point, but still they were judged to have done reasonably well. We all know the rest of the story. Your football became third in the world. And so, in other words, globalization saved Turkish football. Turks finally accepted that there is only one way to play good football. You combine the skill of the Brazilians, the defending of the Italians, the hard work of the Germans, and the movement of the Dutch. You have to put that all together, because football is an industry where only the international style works. National styles don't win you football matches. You can't win playing in the old Turkish style, in other words. Now, Turkey was just one of many countries adopting European football. What happened to your football is much the same thing that's happened to Greek or Polish or Russian or English football. In other words, what's happened to the football of many countries on the far corners of Europe. You and we have all been importing what I call the European Union style of football. Now, what's the European Union style of football? Well, the European Economic Community, which is sort of the father of the EU today, was founded 50 years ago this year, and it had 6 members to start with. West Germany, Italy, France, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg. Now, what's interesting about 4 of those countries at least is they are the best European countries at football. They dominated World Cups and European Championships. Of course, none of this is true of Luxembourg. And these 4 countries, Italy, France, West Germany, the Netherlands, the founder nations of the European Union, they played a disciplined, collective, continental football. And the best of them all was West Germany, which played a football of hard work, discipline, collective spirit. So the countries on the margins of Europe, like you, gradually gravitated towards Europe. Many of them joined the European Union, and slowly, more slowly, they began adopting the European style of football. The countries on the southern fringe, Turkey, Greece, Portugal, for decades played a rather pointless individualist football, no passing, and we in Britain played kick and rush football, which was equally pointless. And neither of these kinds of football wins matches. You have to play European Union collectivist passing football. I gather that some people in Turkey call it industrial football. Well, like it or not, it's the only kind that works. So in the 80s, you began importing German managers, and by 2002, you had absorbed the EU style of football enough to finish 3rd in the World Cup. And then your friends across the water, the Greeks, started to do the same. They also imported a German manager, Otto Rehhagel, and Rehhagel calls what he did in Greece learning from European football. Now, what does that mean? It means becoming more organized on the field, but becoming European also means becoming more organized in society off the field. And that, I think, is one aspiration of many countries on the margins of Europe, in football and outside football, a more European organization. I know that in Turkey there are many people who aspire to that too, and perhaps many who don't. So in the last 20 years, all the countries on the margins of Europe have tried to start to play like the German, Dutch, Italian EU style. Fast, hard-tackling, passing football. Greece did it, Portugal did it, with great success. Now Russia and Poland are trying to import the EU style through appointing Dutch managers of their national teams, and both these countries have qualified for Euro 2008. My own country, England, did import European Union football for a few years. We hired Sven-Göran Eriksson to teach us how to play the European way. But then we made a terrible mistake, which is that after Eriksson we returned to an English manager, Steve McLaren. He got rid of European Union football, brought back the old English style. And I don't know if any of you saw our terrible match against Croatia last week, but we played real English kick and rush football, long punts to a huge centre forward in Peter Crouch. And of course, we lost. So you have to play EU football. Turkey realised that, but Turkey also had 2 great advantages over all the other countries on the margins of Europe. 2 advantages that helped you shoot up the rankings of football. Your first advantage was a population explosion. It's not coincidence that Turkey went from having a bad football team to having one of the best in Europe, just at the same time as you went from being a mid-sized European country to becoming the 3rd most populous country in Europe, if we count you as Europe. Now, in 1945, you had only 19 million inhabitants. Today, you have 71 million,